Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we dive headfirst into corporate filings ready to pull out the juicy details. Today, we've got a report from News Corporation that is all about them buying back their own stock, and let's just say there is more to it than meets the eye. So, what is the big deal? Well, it looks like News Corporation is planning to spend a chunk of change on its own shares. We're talking about a program that could go up to $1 billion. This isn't just a small buyback. It is a significant move that could signal a few things about how the company feels about its own value and its future prospects. News Corporation, the company behind a whole host of media outlets that you probably interact with daily, is giving us an update on its stock repurchase programs. Now, buying back stock sounds pretty simple, right? A company uses its own money to buy its shares from the open market. But why do they do this, and what does it mean for us as investors, or even just curious observers? This filing tells us that News Corporation has the green light to buy back up to $1 billion worth of its stock, specifically Class A and Class B shares. Think of it like this. If you think your own house is undervalued, you might decide to buy some of the land around it to essentially increase the value of your remaining property. Companies do something similar. When they buy back their own stock, they reduce the number of shares available. This can make the remaining shares more valuable because the company's earnings are now spread across fewer shares, potentially increasing earnings per share. It can also signal that management believes the stock is a good investment. Now, here is where it gets a bit more granular, because News Corporation shares are also listed on the Australian Securities Exchange, or ASX. They have to report any stock buyback activity to them every single day. This is essentially a transparency requirement to keep the Australian market informed. So, if they buy even a single share under these programs, they have to let the ASX know. It also means they're making this information public, which is good for investors who want to track these kinds of activities. When they talk about these buybacks, they're also including what are called forward-looking statements. These are basically educated guesses or plans about what the company intends to do in the future. For example, they might say they intend to repurchase shares from time to time. However, and this is super important, these statements are based on their current expectations and can change. The market is a dynamic place. And things like stock prices, how the economy is doing, and even what other investment opportunities pop up can all affect whether and how a company proceeds with its plans. They're being upfront that actual results might be different from what they're saying now. They're also saying they're not promising to update these statements if things change, which is standard practice to protect themselves legally. Now, this report also points us to two exhibits labeled 99.1 and 99.2. These are copies of the actual disclosures they made to the Australian Securities Exchange. While we're not going to go through every single detail in those daily reports here, it is important to know that this is where you'd find the nitty-gritty on exactly what shares were bought. When and at what price, if any, transactions occurred on those specific dates. These exhibits are essentially the proof of their daily reporting. And finally, we have Exhibit 104, which is the cover page interactive data file. This is mostly for electronic filing purposes and contains the report's information in a format that computers can easily read and process. It is mostly technical stuff for the regulatory systems, not really for the end user looking for insights. So, what is the takeaway from all this? News Corporation is signaling confidence in its own stock by authorizing a significant buyback program. This move aims to return value to shareholders and potentially boost the stock price by reducing the number of shares outstanding. However, as always, these are forward-looking statements, meaning plans can change based on market conditions. The daily reporting to the ASX provides a high level of transparency for any buyback activity. Now, looking at this from a broader perspective, News Corporation is a massive media conglomerate. They operate in a constantly evolving landscape with digital disruption and changing advertising models. When a company with a solid history like News Corp decides to buy back its own stock, it often suggests that management believes their shares are a more attractive investment than many other options, including expanding operations or acquiring other businesses. It is a way of saying, we think our own stock is a good deal. This can be a positive sign, indicating that the company is financially healthy enough to allocate significant capital towards its own equity. However, we also need to consider the risks. The media industry is facing constant challenges, competition is fierce, and the way people consume news and entertainment is always changing. If News Corporation's core businesses aren't growing, or if they face unexpected downturns, then spending $1 billion on buybacks might be seen as less strategic than investing in new growth areas or innovation. The key here is to watch how these buyback programs are executed and to see if they are accompanied by strong underlying business performance. In conclusion, News Corporation's decision to authorize a substantial stock repurchase program is a noteworthy event. It demonstrates management's confidence and aims to provide value to shareholders. While this is a positive signal, It is crucial to remember that actual execution and future performance will depend on the company's ability to navigate the dynamic media industry. Alright, that is our breakdown of News Corporation's latest filing. What is your take on these buyback plans and what they signal for the company's future? Are you optimistic or cautious? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this deep dive was valuable for you, hitting that like button really helps us out. And of course, subscribe for more corporate insights brought to you in plain English. Don't forget to check out the Discord community linked in the description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Corporate Decoder.